In this lecture, we will discuss the basics of scales and why they are important when studying music. Scales can be defined as a progression of notes arranged in a specific order. There are many different types of scales, and they all follow some sort of half-step and whole-step formula. For the blast-off level, we will focus on the two most common scale types, major and minor. The formula begins after your starting note. For major scales, the formula is whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. Again, that's whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. For minor scales, the formula is whole, half, whole, whole, half, whole, whole. Again, that's whole, half, whole, whole, half, whole, whole. Let's take a look at what these scales look like on the keyboard so it makes a little more sense, starting with the C major scale. Let's start by writing down our major scale formula below the musical keyboard. We have whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. Now we are trying to form the C major scale, so we're going to start with the note C. From there, we need to go up a whole step, which is 2 half steps. So we've got 1 half step and 2 half steps. And that puts us on the note D. From there, we go up a whole step, so that's 2 more half steps. 1 and 2. That brings us to the letter E. And next we need to go up a half step, so we go from E to F. And yes, those two notes are touching. There are no black keys in between them. From F, we go up 1 more whole step, which is, again, 2 half steps. So 1 and 2. That lands us on G. Then we need 1 more whole step. So we've got 1 and 2 half steps, which gives us A. Then we need 1 more whole step. 1 and 2 half steps, which brings us to B. And finally, we end with a half step. And if we did all the math correctly, this should land on our starting note, which is C. So we go up 1 half step, and of course we do land on C. Now here is what the C major scale looks like on the grand staff. It's a bit harder to see where the half steps and whole steps are on the staff, so we've labeled them for you. After you begin writing and analyzing different scales, you'll be able to recognize them much easier. Let's take a look at the A minor scale now. Let's start by using the same process we used for the C major scale with the A minor scale, starting by writing out the minor scale formula. Again, that formula is whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step. So for the A minor scale, let's start with our first note, which is A. And we need to go up a whole step to begin. So we will go up 2 half steps. That will land us on B. And then we need a half step, which will bring us to C. Then a whole step, which takes us to D. 1 more whole step, which brings us to E. And then our second half step, which brings us to F. And then we need another whole step. So we go from F up 2 half steps to G. And finally, we end with a whole step. And again, if we did our math correctly, those 2 half steps will put us back at the letter A, giving us our A minor scale. Now here's the A minor scale in notated form. As you can see, the half step and whole step order has changed from the major scale. The last topic concerning scales is the term scale degree. This is the number of each note in a scale, and it ends up being a faster way for us to discuss scales. For example, take a look at the A minor scale again. Each note gets its own ordinal number starting with the second note. The first and last note of the scale are called the tonic. Then we have the second, third, and so on. The tonic is special because it tells us the key in which the scale is based off of. The use of scale degrees will become very important, especially when we discuss chords in the next section. But for now, go ahead to the next lecture, which is a quiz to show what you know about scales. Also use the attached PDF worksheet to practice writing intervals, scales, and scale degrees. Feel free to email your work directly to me at chriswisejazz@gmail.com for personalized feedback.